Welcome back to the Becca B Show. Let's jump right into part 2 of pain and suffering. Last time we were here, we discussed the idea that pain and suffering could actually have a purpose. Our man Paul helped us figure out that it actually helps us accomplish something greater and more eternal. Now, there's still a couple issues people have with the idea of pain and suffering and a good God, like this one we got in one of our mic'd up videos.
To a certain extent, yes. If it's to show that we're in danger, yes. But to do pain and suffering just for pain and suffering, I don't believe that would be possible. That unless the God that we're talking about is a total
Our friend here is saying that God could use pain as a warning that we're in trouble. But if pain and suffering was there just for the heck of it, that God wouldn't be a very good God. Now, a lot of people feel this way. Why do bad things happen to good people? You may have a friend who's a really good person and does not deserve to go through any pain or trials, but they are going through them. But let's look at the bigger picture. Why should we as mere humans have to comprehend everything that happens to us? Now let's use the debunked video we have here to help us visualize this.
Answer me this. What percentage of all there is to know do you know? And let's say you know 0.001%, which is pretty liberal considering you and all there is to know. The God described in the Bible knows 100% of all there is to know. Somewhere in that gaping chasm between the little you know and all that God knows, you're telling me there can't be a morally sufficient or good reason why God might allow something bad to happen?
I love the illustrations in that video, but think about it. We know very little, and God knows everything. So who are we to question his reasoning? Take a look at the life of Job. In Job, verse 1 of chapter 1, it says, "There's a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil." Now, to start off, that already sounds like a man who doesn't really deserve to go through any pain or suffering. But to keep this video from being very long, I'm going to paraphrase his life. Job had a pretty good life. He got family, wealth, land, and as it said, he was righteous and feared the Lord. Now, God was kind of bragging on Job for being so faithful to him, and so Satan said that the only reason Job was faithful to God was because he had all of those things. So God allowed Satan to test Job's faithfulness by taking all those things away. However, Job remained faithful until he had 3 friends who were giving him some pretty bad advice, and he gave in and started cursing God, saying, why would he allow such a righteous man to go through suffering? But when God answered Job, he didn't give him a reason for the suffering. Instead, he asked him questions. In verse 4 and 5 of chapter 38, it says, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know." You see, God was kind of saying, I'm God, I created the universe and the laws that govern it, and you are Job. Who are you to question me? And so in chapter 40, verse 4, Job says, "Behold, I am of small account. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand on my mouth." You see, Job recognized that God was so good and so great, and he was no one to question his goodness. And so he put his faith and trust back in God, and God blessed him with even more than he had to start with. You see, when we're in the suffering, we don't always recognize why we're going through it, but we have to keep our trust and faith in God because he's a good God who cares about us and wants what's best for us. Now, on to the last issue people have with pain and suffering and a good God. They say that if there is a God, obviously he doesn't care about us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to go through pain and suffering. Let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He created it perfect and sinless. Then he created us, and we messed it up. Continued to fight with each other. And so instead of just wiping us out, he was patient with us. He sent his son to die in our place for the punishment that we deserved, and his son conquered sin, death, and resurrected. And then if we believe in him, we can be redeemed and live with him forever in heaven. Does that really sound like a God that doesn't care about us? I don't think so. We messed up the world he created, and instead of wiping us out, he created another way for us to be in communion with him forever. Period. So in the suffering, we might not always know why we're going through it, but we need to keep faith because God has a will and plan for our lives that is even better than we could imagine. Becca B, out.